Let's get started with our next session with a special talk by Suresh from IISc Bangalore.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Suryesh. I work at Indian Institute of Science as a Senior Research Analyst. I'll be talking about more about my journey in a bit, but here, what I'll mostly be talking about is policies. And policy is a very important term. It's something that affects all of us. Policy is about ultimately systems and people and choices. It's about systems of people like you have the government or you have the academic community. And the kind of ways then in which those systems are understood, kind of ways in which those systems challenges are understood, and what are the kind of solutions we can come up to make the system work for in a better way, what kind of hopefully well informed evidence informed policies or evidence informed choices that we come up is what the policy work is all about, right? Science policy is a very small subset of a broader area of public policy. Science policy deals with the scientific ecosystem. It talks about what kind of how, for example, in bio E3 policy, it's an example of a science policy that is designed to make the science ecosystem, in this case biotech ecosystem, work in a more efficient way, work in a way that helps researchers, that helps our economy to grow, and so on. Now, policies are done at many different levels, right? You have institutional policies. The policies, let's say, what Pratik was talking about yesterday at the level of NCBS or some other institute, that can have their own policy about how infrastructure, research infrastructure is shared, how open science is done, and so on. They can be at the level of cities. Many cities actively around the world promote science and technology done in their own jurisdictions. State governments have their own policies. For example, Karnataka state has a biotech policy. And at the national level, there we have the National Science Technology Innovation Policy, things related to open science, open access. Then we have a Bio E3 policy, a number of others. Then policies are also done at the global level. At the multilateral level, you have UNESCO, a number of other UN organizations, International Science Council, a number of international platforms where a lot of policy-related work is also done. Now, science policy can be broadly divided into these two different categories. There is a science for policy and policy for science. Science for policy is when scientific evidence is used to inform a broader public policy issue. Let's say something related to health or climate change. There are a number of bodies. For example, WHO has a scientific committee. Climate change, we have the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which informs the scientific side to the broader global community about what kind of climate change activities, what is happening at the global level. And then you have a policy for science, the policies that are made to change or shape how the scientific ecosystem works. This is more about how the funding related things work, how we have more open science done, how we collaborate with other countries, what kind of international cooperation that can be done. Then there are many different aspects of STI policy, and these terms are sometimes used interchangeably. Science policy and STI. STI is Science Technology Innovation Policy. And you would hear people talking about these two things interchangeably. So Science Technology Innovation Policy also have the technology and innovation components. More things about intellectual property rights, more things about how we have tech commercialization, how we have tech cooperation with other countries, and so on. Now, these includes things that I already mentioned, again, from things like how we communicate science to a broader set of people, to how we address the gender-related issues and other things in scientific ecosystem, to things like, as mentioned, how we establish our international cooperation in science and technology. And there are different kinds of STI professionals, STI policy professionals. There are people who are a practitioner, who are the people who work in the government agencies and NGOs and are actively trying to promote STI policy. And then there are policy researchers who are trying to create those evidences which could be used by policymakers to create hopefully better policies. Okay. So why science policy matters? So first and most important, it sets national priorities. If for the national level policy. The state level and city level and international policy, it's the same argument that goes. And that includes things like funding. What are the areas that should be more funded than others? And those are the things that affect us. How the research infrastructure should be created and shared. If we want to do some mega science projects, what should we prioritize? Should we prioritize, let's say, a particle accelerator or a human genome project or things like that? And it's also about regulations. For example, genetic modification related regulations, GM crops, or regulations related to biosafety, biosecurity, and so on. It also determines which research and how a research actually translates into societal impact. We have had the successful examples of green revolution and white revolution transforming Indian society. But in addition to the excellent science that was done there, it was also supported by policies that enabled to have those science having a transformative impact on the society. And in the case for science for policy, it also links scientific evidence to decision making in health, climate, security, and industry related issues, and it helps shape those areas as well. I already talked about health and climate and security also. For example, defense minister has a scientific advisor, and they informed what kind of security things that we need to do in our country, right? In industry, we have a number of these industry consortium who have a science and technology kind of advisory bodies within them that advise the industry, which then shapes the norms and regulations at the national and international level. It also, science policy ultimately shapes the scientific ecosystem through these issues. And most importantly, I think for what affects the day-to-day life and business for most scientists is ease of doing research. How much flexibility you have in using your funding, how quickly you can get the funding, how easily you can hire people, and so on. All of those are ultimately policy issues. And this is a broad overview of how a policy process works in the country. And this is a bit outdated, and a lot of things have changed. This is for DST, but the same thing could go for DBT, Office of Principal Scientific Advisor, and other bodies as well. So basically, you have the government agency or ICMR, for that matter, that creates a committee, and government policy works on committees. Governments likes creating committees for everything, right? And that also translates to institutes. Institutional policies are also made by the committees that sit at the institute level, right? And these committees are chaired by prominent scientists and experts from different areas. And then there are a number of consultations, a number of meetings that are done. A draft is prepared, and then public input is sought on that draft. And that draft goes to various ministries for interministerial and interagency kind of consultations. And finally, that draft is open for public to make more comments on and give their feedback. And after that, it goes to the Parliamentary Standing Committee. So there is a Parliamentary Standing Committee on Science and Technology. So a lot of broad policy issues go through it, and then incorporate comments from that, and then ultimately it's passed by the cabinet, and in most cases launched by the Prime Minister. But this is the process of policy formation. There is also a policy, a whole thing about how the policies are implemented, right? So policies are implemented through the programs, projects, schemes, missions that government creates. And these includes, also institutions. For example, ANRF is an institution that was created to implement the national education policy. Similarly, you have a number of programs. Ramalinga Swamy Fellowship. It's a program that is created to implement a policy decision to get more people from outside coming back to India, right? Now, major stakeholders, I've already mentioned a number of ministries, departments, advisory office. So advisory offices include Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor, Niti Aayog, and so on. Those are involved in those processes. A lot of coordination work is done. And sometimes some policies involve a lot of different ministries. Sometimes it's only one. For example, for National One Health Mission, it's a policy implementation thing. Like you have 13 different ministries coming together to implement that. Then academia and researchers, they, again, both at the national level, but also at the institutional city level, they are involved in policy processes. Industries and startups, so a lot of industry consortium. For example, there is an association of biotech-led enterprise, ABLE in India, which works as an industry body or industry voice in a lot of these discussions. There is CII, FICCI, all of them have a role in this policy process. And then funders and philanthropies. And they also have a big role. For example, Wellcome Trust also has contributed to a lot of policy related activities in the country over the years. Now, civil society actors, professional association, and professional association, the most important ones are the science academies. Unfortunately, in our country, science academies are not super. I would like them to be, but in general, this is one of the roles of the science academies to inform the national policy making process. A number of NGOs are also involved, and sometimes it depends on the issue. Like in some issues they are a lot more involved. For example, related to nuclear energy or GM crops, and others they are not. Then the media and public also have a huge role in all of these things. Now, there are a number of ways in which early career researchers can get engaged, and there are a number of fellowships and internships. So the STI Policy Fellowship is the biggest example. It's like a postdoc fellowship, and that is to get people transition and get more involved in policy research. The number of think tanks and research organizations that are also working. You have 5 or 6 DST Center for Policy Research, and I have worked in one of them, and I'll talk about that in a bit. But there are also Observer Research Foundation and others which work tangentially on some of the policy issues. They are not their main focus, but they have kind of projects or programs that are working on a number of these policy issues. People can also get involved in responding to there are these always call for public input, and you can get involved in that. For example, I'm often approached by the PSA office for some input on certain policy issues. Then write policy relevant op-eds, and no matter which technical area you are working on, you can always find a policy work that is connected to that affects your work, or that where you would like your voice to be heard. Try to get involved in that, slowly writing blogs or policy op-eds and so on. And as I was mentioning, committees are there, and government works on committees. Try to join some of them. And also, there are a number of working groups at the institutional level, and this is where you can get trained very early in some of these things. I find India Bioscience to be an amazing platform for a lot of this communication. I have written a number of articles at India Bioscience as well, and I believe that's also a great way to reach to wider community, and you can make your voice heard about certain issue in policy. Collaborate with industry for some of the translational project, and more, I think most importantly, a number of these government agencies, they have their seminars, workshops, events. Try to engage with people coming from the government on those activities. Like whenever those events are happening, reach out to them, talk with them, try to discuss your issues that influence you. Very quickly, in the interest of time, I'll go over my journey. So it started from Pune, and Mayurika and Sasi helped me understand what the basics of biology, and I'm product of ICER Pune in so many ways. I did a summer, like 3 summer internships at JNCSR, and I have a diploma from there. Then I moved to Max Planck Institute for Biology in Tübingen, Germany, from where I did my PhD on nematode biology. That was about phenotypic plasticity, understanding molecular mechanisms of that. And then I did not know what to do, because I did not want to do that kind of lab science research anymore. And when I came back to India, because I always had an interest in policy and international relations, I did not know how to go about approaching that. So I came back to India, and like most people in India in that age group, when they don't know what to do, they prepare for civil service exams. So that's what I did. I prepared for UPSC for like 6 whole months, gave one attempt, missed by a few marks. But then I started reading if that's the kind of life I want to have or not. And I realized that's not where I fully fit in as well. So I thought, let me try to do something which is at the interface of what I have been trained for and what I want to do. So if I'm trained in science, and if I want to do policy, science policy is naturally an area where, which comes up. And similarly, science diplomacy, where I have done a lot of research work as well. So I moved to, I got a chance to become the program officer of the Science, Technology, Innovation Policy Fellowship Program of DST. And this work was done at the Indian Institute of Science. I then moved, I managed that program for a couple of years. Then I was part of the Youth for Biosecurity and Youth for Disarmament program of the United Nations, UN Office for Disarmament Affairs. And then I moved full-time to the UN. I was working at the UN headquarters in Geneva, where I was the Science and Technology Advisor to the UN for its Biological Weapons Convention. And then I realized that is also like a lot of talk and a lot less being done on the ground level. I moved back to ISC. So you can see my life has been, academic life has been going everywhere. And this is also a way to, learn about a lot of new things. At Indian Institute of Science, I'm currently leading a project on on bioresponsibility, which is about looking at biosafety, biosecurity, bioethics in an integrated manner and try to solve some of those challenges that are there. Speaking of challenges, there are a lot of challenges in science policy going back. They include a lack of awareness among all the stakeholders that I mentioned. No one, like even the science policymakers, sometimes are not aware of the broader policy scientific issues or policy issues that are there, and they are not trained in science policy themselves, right? They become director of some institute and they get in the committee, and then they are in these decision making places. Very few opportunity to engage, no fixed career path, as you can see with my example, and things are getting better now, but still a lot of challenges. Understanding science policy literature, it's not always easy. There are a lot of technical things and it takes some time to get there. Just finishing in 1 minute. Managing the interface with governments and other stakeholders is also a challenge. I just wanted to very quickly share some of the resources if you are interested in taking this thing. So this is Office of the PSA website. Please do check it out. There are a lot of resources here, a lot of things that might interest you. Then a number of think tanks, including ORF, Carnegie India, they have worked especially on the technology-related issue, technology policy, and that is something that might be interested to you. Indian National Young Academy of Science is a platform for a lot of young scientists, early career researchers to get involved, and they also publish a lot of policy, a lot of white papers which are very policy relevant. And Fast India, I'm sure many of you know about, is also an kind of a private platform, but very much engaged in government policy processes as well. Internationally, International Science Council has a lot of resources on all kind of policy issues, and I would encourage you to check it out. Then Intergovernmental International Network for Government Science Advice, INSA, has number of projects where you, being a scientist, could still get involved and get some funding to run some biosecure, some policy activities. Yes, Global Young Academia is another platform for young researchers. Last one, yeah. Okay, so yes, and this is important one. Just Geneva Science and Diplomacy Anticipator. So this is a platform that they have created where they look at 5 years, 10 years, 25 years down the line where the science is going to be, and they consult a lot of people, and they've created a radar which says which is about foresight related work, where science might reach and what could be the most impactful areas, and this is one of the ways of looking at. Okay, I'll just stop here. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and I'll be in the panel, so I'll answer questions there. Thank you.